Most guys completely kill themselves when they come out of a diet and they transition into a growing phase. That reverse phase is so crucial, and it's one phase that I see a lot of people getting wrong. Now, before we dive into the education and before we dive into the value that I'm going to give you around that and how to actually reverse diet properly, we'll talk about the prep series. So as you can see in front of me, I did it, right? Not top three, which is obviously what I wanted, but I got invites back to the PCA British Finals, the PCA Championships, and also the PCA Universe at the end of the month. Now, we're not going to be competing in the Universe. The feedback that I got back from the judges was simply just down to muscle, right? It was a very packed lineup, very stacked. I was the only one on there who had done it for the first time. I threw myself into a natural show, not a first timers, so completely out of my comfort zone, but I absolutely loved it. I thrived in it. Fourth out of eighth, I think it was. Very happy with the overall placing. Condition wise was spot on. Posing was spot on. Everything that I had under my control was spot on. So the prep went really well. Obviously posing, literally first posing session was in November last year. So to finish where I did and to place where I did and to get invites back on my first show, couldn't be more happy. So the aim now is to grow 15 weeks and then potentially the two at the end of the year. 17th of October is the PCA British Finals, and then we've got the 27th of September PCA Natural Championship. So we'll see, but yeah, nice medal, nice little keyring to go with it. Number 55, we're going to be getting a shelf there above the logo and just simply putting a nice little monument on the wall. But this brings me on to today's topic. The prep series is now done, and we're going to be adding a lot more value, a lot more education, a lot more support that you guys can take away and implement for yourselves onto the channel. Okay, so a reverse diet, how to nail it, how to do it correctly, how not to actually ruin the condition you've got in, and how to grow effectively. And this obviously applies to me right now in the phase that I'm in, but I've also walked the walk. I've done it plenty of times before. I've done about 6 or 7 growing phases. I've done about 4 or 5 preps. I've done 3 photo shoots. I've walked the walk on stage. I know how to reverse diet effectively, but it wasn't always like that. I've heard horror stories of lads literally gaining 10 to 15 kilograms in the matter of days post-show or post-shoot, or even at the end of a diet when they haven't actually been on stage or have had a shoot, and that is scary. So what I want you to take away from this episode is how to reverse diet effectively, how not to gain so much body weight that you're actually undoing all of your condition and then you're having to undo it again, but actually to enjoy yourself post-show or post-diet, post-stage, but actually do it effectively. Okay, so you actually come away from it still in relatively good condition. You're going to obviously gain a little bit of weight because you're going to be super responsive anyway. You're restoring glycogen stores. Obviously, your body's going to be so responsive to anything that you put in, anything that's off plan as well, different food groups. But how to actually maintain that condition, grow effectively, and then obviously rebuild from there. The number one mistake that I did when I first did my first ever photo shoot back in 2022, I left my coach on the day of the shoot, literally straight after. This was such a big mistake because I thought I'd done it all, right? I thought I was in really good condition. I thought I was peeled. I was actually nowhere near it. I then reverse dieted by myself. I then tried to go into a growing phase by myself. Within weeks, my condition was completely gone. I'd actually lost all size. I'd lost any sort of credibility and accountability and structure, and I was actually lost. So this isn't me preaching my coaching, but if you're with a coach now, or if you are dieting and then you're thinking about actually swapping or changing at the end of that or actually leaving, please don't. Because those that have done a reverse diet before and who are watching this video, you'll know how important that phase is for accountability and structure. It is very hard to keep your mindset strong, and it's actually a time you need to lean on a coach more than ever. Mistake number 2 that I see a lot of people doing is indulging loads of food for days on end rather than just a day or two. So let's just take this as an example. Client A, 1,600 to 1,800 calories for about 12 weeks on prep for a photo shoot or a diet to get from, say, 85 kilograms down to mid 75s. Okay, they've managed to do it, but you think how responsive that body is going to be to any type of food, right? That's automatically going to be pushing to the top end of a deficit, right? 800 to 1,000 calories into a deficit. Your body is going to be so responsive to any sort of food that you put into your body, even if it's the same food groups. If you have any sort of increase up towards maintenance and above, which is very easily done, it's very, very easy to gain a lot of weight. Now, there's plenty of studies out there that unless you are literally eating 3,500 calories over your maintenance post-show or post-stage or post-diet, not a lot of that will actually be body fat. The majority of it is going to be water, right? You're replenishing your glycogen stores, your body's going to be holding on to a lot of water retention, and that's why you probably see a lot of bloat happening. So yes, you'll increase scale weight, but you're not going to be too worried about actually adding too much body fat. So yes, a day or two completely off plan, enjoy yourself. That is earned and that is given. That is absolutely fine. But what you then want to be doing is starting to implement foods that your body is used to back into your diet, because otherwise you really do run the risk of losing all that condition, all that hard work that you've been working for over the past 12 to 14 weeks, say. Mistake number 3, adding calories far too quickly when reversing out. Now for me, my experience that I've had with my clients and my team, I believe this is truly the most important phase that you can probably do, is a 4-week reverse phase and then like a 4 to 8 week maintenance phase before you then go into a growing phase. And the reason for this is so that you can grow effectively. So you can start adding calories in slowly and start manipulating cardio and carbohydrates and start implementing certain food groups, but to a level where you are going to keep condition for as long as possible. Because let's face it, the overall aim of a growing phase is to grow muscle, not to gain body fat. So what I would suggest doing is planning out a 4-week reverse where you are literally going to add, say, 200 to 300 calories. Over the space of those 4 weeks, you probably want to be adding 1 to 2 kilograms of body weight. Then when you come into that maintenance phase of say 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the client and their goals and where they currently are in that position, you then want to be going up towards maintenance calories. So you probably want to be adding another 200 to 300 calories, implementing some different food groups, for example, maybe another meal, just giving some more balance, more flexibility, but also keeping some certain food groups in there that your body is going to be used to. And it's here where you can really start to nail down training performance. You can start getting some strength back. Your energy levels are going to start to be resetted a little bit better. Your homeostasis levels are going to be back. You're going to be much more responsive. And your glycogen stores are going to be replenished. So you're going to be in a good position to start throwing training up to a good level. So you can start adding in certain food groups around the pre and post training windows just to make your training a little bit more effective as well. And then you can really push yourself into a growing phase, right? Where you go into a surplus, where you can start adding 300 to 500 calories into a surplus, again, depending on the client. But you want to be keeping output in there as well, right? So what I would suggest doing in a reverse and maintenance phase is actually keeping a little bit of cardio in there, still having a step target, for example, as well, looking after your recovery, just so you're not adding too much body fat. So you're keeping that condition there and then you're actually recovering into a good position in order to get the best response that you possibly can. And then the final mistake that I actually want to touch upon is a mistake that I see a lot of males making, and that's just switching off their mindset completely. You think because you've worked hard and you've got yourself into fairly decent condition that you can just switch off and anything goes, and that is so wrong. But that is actually a massive contradiction in itself, because it's a time that you actually need to switch on more than ever. I'll be completely honest and transparent here. This has been the hardest reverse phase that I've had so far, and it's simply because it was the toughest prep so far with a lot of pressure on my back. So for me now, I need that accountability. I need that support. I need that strong mindset. I need that future pacing goal in order to keep my mindset locked on. It's very, very tough coming out of a prep because you've lost that drive, you've lost that end goal. You're then reversing out and you've almost got that long-term approach and that patient approach that you then need to dive into. So this is a time that you actually need to embed yourself into that mindset and stay locked on as much as you possibly can. And you're going to be doing that through accountability, through support, through talking to people, through having a vision and having that next goal already planned out before you actually went into the end of that diet. So even though I have struggled in this reverse phase, at least I've got that accountability. At least I've got that support. At least I've got that next goal, that next target that I'm actually working towards, and I know exactly what I'm doing and why. So yes, you may have worked hard. Yes, you've got yourself into good condition, and yes, you deserve that balance again, but it doesn't mean that you should just completely switch off and just let everything go, because you will regret it further down the line. Now, before we close off this YouTube video, I want to talk to you about the spaces that we've currently got available. The Shred Code 8-week program that we've run for just £125 is currently live, and there are still spaces available. Now, this is an 8-week aggressive fat loss program that we run 3 or 4 times a year that really, really helps you kickstart your journey and actually lead to longer term results down the line. Now, as you can see on the screen, these are just a few of the results that we've achieved before using the Shredco program. And we've also had upgrades this time around with a prize for the winner. We've also got training review clips that we're going to be giving form feedback on. And we're also implementing our new social tracker and client portal with our clients. Now, there is a link in the description if that is something that you are interested in. But I really hope that you found this video useful on how to actually reverse diet. So the next time that you go into a prep, you go into shoot, or you go into the end of a fat loss phase, you know exactly how to reverse diet, how to keep that condition there for as long as possible, and how to grow effective muscle for longer periods of time. So then when you next come to diet, you're going to be in much better condition, you're going to be bigger, you're going to be fuller, and you won't have to prep as hard. As always, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.